First of all, I think your analysis was very straight line. History doesn't run in a straight line.
Kid, you cannot tell your neighbor he is stealing ducks when you are stealing funds.
As High Commissioner, I was wrong. As Charandas Prasad, I reacted naturally how any person would have.
I did not come here for that kind of abuse. I did not come here for that kind of abuse. If you're going to go down that road, I'll walk off.
But it's all okay once they're talking. If they were talking, I could not have been here today.
You got ADHD. I got nothing.
Calm down.
I think I've done enough in terms of taking our team out of trouble from losing.
Come on, Lou Taylor. That's good. I'm reading the script now, and the first person that comes to my mind to play a detective,
Yes,
but
the
an
Chinese critic.
erratic
Mikhail
detective is Mikhail Rodriguez.
Why an African slapping in young? Why a man and slap a woman? Look, how you deal with that? You deal with that.
We must encourage platforms like this because it brings together different people and allows for discussions to take place in our country on a multiplicity of fundamental issues.
Gildarie, you apologizing for something you think I did is wrong. I don't want you to do that, and you should not have done that. Hi there, welcome to the Gildarie Freddie Kissoon show. It's a brand new year and we'd like to wish you all the best for 2024 and thanks for being with us the past 20 months. We won't have much time to complete our topics this evening because it's a wide topic and we have 3 guests. This is a first, this program is a first in the 20 months existence of the show. We have had all kinds of subject matters, except the one this evening. We haven't had specialist guests discussing a specialist topic. This evening, 3 young doctors of Guyanese descent, of Guyanese citizenship, living in Guyana and going nowhere, will be discussing medicine in Guyana, the holistic approach to medicine, not only private or public, but medicine in general. Now, from what I know of all 3 of them, they are not going anywhere. So in the next 20 years, we can expect dedication from these 3 young persons. Now, before I introduce them, let me just briefly touch on the importance of the topic that they will be ruminating on. The UK has a system of free medical service, NHS, National Health Service. And in the last election, there were talks about privatizing the NHS. And the party that won the election under the Prime Minister Boris Johnson quickly backtracked on that. And the reason for that is, except the United States, most countries perhaps all offer free medical assistant medical treatment. Medicine is very important to the peoples of the world, of the more than 200 odd countries we have, because only wealthy people can take a plane and fly out for foreign treatment. So without any delay, let's introduce our 3 young medical specialists, and they, for the next hour, will be discussing a topic that I am sure interests all Guyanese in and out if you are not wealthy. Our guest this evening is Dr. Mark France. His special area is general surgery. Dr. Josh KANHAI, special area pathology. And Dr. DELISSA Thomas, special area pathology. I'd like to welcome all 3 of them to our program this evening and looking forward to an exposition on the nature of medicine in Guyana. Dr. France, thanks.
Good night.
Dr. Thomas.
Okay, me here.
Soon, thank you again.
We normally, when it's more than one guest, we normally go alphabetically, but we will skip that order tonight and give preference to Dr. Thomas. It's very insulting anywhere in the world to have an interview program and you ask someone to attend at the last minute. And we thank her for her generosity, her mental generosity in accepting last minute invitation to this program. So we will start with Dr. DELISSA Thomas, our women doctor on the panel this evening, sandwiched between three men. Dr. Thomas, you're on the floor. How important is the current state of medicine in this large country of 83,000 square miles? I know Barbados, a small country of 166 square miles, has one general hospital. This is 83,000 square miles.
I know this is a very pressing area for us. We have, in our beautiful country of Guyana, we have only 22 hospitals. Yes, it may seem a lot, but in comparison to our large land masses and the needs of the public, we should have more, even if it's not, even if it's hard for us to have more hospitals, we must have quality care in these 22 hospitals that we have already existing. As we stand, we have 5 levels of healthcare. We have level 1, these are our health posts. Level 2, these are our health centers. 3, we have our district hospitals. Number 4, regional hospitals. And number 5, our referral hospital. And as it stands, our only referral hospital that could offer more hands-on and all-rounded healthcare is the GPAC Georgian Public Hospital. And for such a big country with all these needs, it's insufficient. We don't have the amount of trained specialists to handle the workload. And over time, we'll be burnt out.
Alphabetically now we go, Dr. France. I heard the Vice President said that there are 12 hospitals being built.
Hi, good night to the viewing public. Happy New Year to everyone. It's been a while since I've been on your show, Freddie, and thank you once again for inviting me to be part of this panel. With regard to healthcare in Guyana, there are mixed views. I have mixed views with what is happening with regard to the state of healthcare in Guyana. There are positive areas. There are areas which can be improved, and there are areas which I think we have gone somewhat backward. Dr. Thomas just mentioned the different levels of healthcare, and if we follow the Constitution, we know that healthcare in Guyana is free. If we talk in Spanish, it's gratis, right? And so as a result, it is up to the government to ensure that whatever healthcare is provided to the population is of some quality. It should be of optimum quality. And that is where we should focus most, if not all, of our attentions. If we pay attention to the previous budget, healthcare had the second largest lump sum of monies after education. So huge sums are being expended on healthcare, and we need to see the results from those sums that are being spent. With regard to the facilities that Doc mentioned, there are need for better facilities, better equipped facilities, and for us to have the requisite staffing for these facilities. Right now, just a couple of weeks ago, or last week, I think it was, the GPHC had a press conference whereby the acting CEO, Mr. Rambaran, said that we are lacking at least 600 nurses at the Georgian Public Hospital. That can tell you what is the picture out there. And a lot of the negatives that we have in the healthcare system, and at more so the GPHC, is as a result of the lack of adequate staff. There are many reasons why we have this dearth in quality personnel in the healthcare system. And we're going to go on and expound on these things more. But if we think in infrastructure alone, we are not addressing adequately the most important part of what is lacking in healthcare system, and that is personnel. I'm going to get back on that topic. Let me give Josh a chance to
Josh, before you come in, I normally put my foot in my mouth, and I hate to do it this evening because this is a very serious program. So I'm going to ask the viewers for forgiveness. The last time you were on this program, I told you when I was 10, even before all three of you were born. An English singer made a song very famous throughout the world. His name was Billy Fury, and the song was Halfway to Paradise. And he had that identical hairstyle. I don't know if you copied it from Billy Fury. But now you taking on an appearance of a very famous Russian priest. I don't know if you know Rasputin. You have this a very famous black group from Germany, Boney M, sang a very famous song called Rasputin. You know the story of Rasputin. He had special power over the Tsarina in Russia, right? And so they killed him. Well, I hope you have special power over anybody.
No.
But so you combine Billy Fury and Rasputin.
Yeah. We're about to stir some things up.
Yeah, but please Google Billy Fury. He died a long time ago. So Josh, sorry to introduce that like this. Josh, you want to take up with your two other colleagues. All three of you work in the same environment, right? You see each other, okay?
Same institution, yes. Right, so I think my colleagues gave a solid foundation as to where we are and how things are in the capacity of Guyana. I want to say it again. Happy New Year to everyone, and thank you for having us on the show. And you mentioned the 83,000 square miles, which was almost threatened last year. And I want to say that belongs to us, and that is Guyana's. So with that being said, all 83,000 square miles is to be developed, and medicine in itself is developing rapidly, and we are trying to keep up with that. As you mentioned, the hospitals are being built, the infrastructures are being put in place. I think right now, as you mentioned, the acting CEO, these guys are actually looking at the root problems, and they're looking at solutions to these root problems and conducting root cause analysis. These are some trainings that we had. Dr. Thomas and I would have been involved in. Not sure if Dr. Mark was there, but we had some root cause analysis training, which is something that we weren't introduced to before. But when we had this training, we were opened up to a broader perspective of how to manage and look at situations and find solutions to core problem. With that being said, it's these small steps that we're taking at the moment that are going to put us to accomplish what we want to see. The 12 hospitals are being built, yes. We need staffing, we need personnel, but we also need to pay these personnel adequately to keep them and retain them. And that is an issue that we have been battling throughout. And that is an issue that the current government, the government before, has been trying to fix. And I think the current government, again, in the budget, they're going to put measures in place to fix that. And that is something that I can attest to and give some amount of praises, jacket, and say that they have been trying to focus on giving the personnel more incentives and also giving them more chances at better education in the medical field, and also incentives monetary-wise. Other than that, we've seen a lot of changes throughout the system when it comes to trying different things. And trying these different things are, of course, going to start small. You can't start at the top. You can't start very large. We got to start small, and we got to try, and until we get there, then we're going to see this big picture that we all want. Our socialist environment with the health sector and giving it freely to the public is something that is a blessing. A lot of people in the world do not have access to free health care. A lot of people in the world do not have access to basic medication like metformin and basic medication for high blood pressure, some of the very common diseases. And that in itself is something that we should be thankful for. Yes, everyone wants to go to the accident and emergency, but we got to remember that there's something called outpatient as well, right? So we got to understand and educate the population that, hey, at the moment, everyone can't run to accident and emergency because that's going to overwork the doctors. So for your common cold, your common flus, your common everyday issues, you go to outpatient. So bringing in education to the population is another aspect that the Ministry of Health, I think, should focus a lot on. Educating our Guyanese, and especially those who are a bit more up in age, educate them to let them understand the system and how it works, and educate them on the basic medical issues that we have, that you can see on an everyday basis that they themselves might have. Educate them so that they can know that, hey, when this happens, let me go to the doctor, let me not rush there until I'm half dead. And then the doctors get blamed because we can't save you because you came half dead. So these are some of the issues we face daily at the moment. So there are pros and there are cons, and the cons are getting better from my perspective. There are people working on them. We can't just look at the pros and cons and just say they're not being worked on. Our department itself has been working on these cons, and we can get into some of that a bit more later on the show.
Okay, Dr. Thomas, we're not going to get in the hour here because all of you want, because medicine is cardiac medicine, urology, pediatrics, neurosurgery, the works. Which is the area outside of your field, which is pathology, that you believe needs special attention, more resources, or you satisfy across the board that we're getting there?
Oh, you don't want to actually take away from the necessities from any one department by saying, okay, general surgery, they're lacking, they need more doctors, they need more specialists, they need more interns or GMOs. But for me, who would need the biggest help is emergency. The emergency, especially a GPHC, because, okay, when you go in there, they are the front line. You would have to see them first before you get admitted. You would have to see them first before you even get to surgery. So they would need to have cutting edge equipment to quickly diagnose certain things so that they wouldn't be stressing and for a lack of a better word, wasting time on some stuff that could have been treated at outpatient if people were better educated to know, okay, this is something that I could have gone to the health center, basically disseminating the work. Okay, if I would have gone to the health center, I would have gotten help instead of going to the emergency unit where somebody else could have gotten that time. Maybe a gunshot wound, maybe somebody who has internal bleeding, but they're sitting up straight and looking normal until they crash. So for me, I would actually say emergency would need the help, then general surgery.
General surgery, that's your colleague there on your right. You said as the program go on, there are other things you want to say. What are the other things you want to say?
So
follow up from where you left off.
I was trained in the Cuban healthcare system that focuses strongly on primary healthcare. And that is an area where we are currently lacking a whole lot in Guyana. The fact that Dr. Thomas mentioned education, that's one of the pillars of treatment for all patients. We see a lot of chronic illnesses in the health centers, and many of the patients up to this day and age, they don't know what is it exactly that they have, what treatment they're receiving, whether it's controlled or not. You go to a health center in Cuba and you see the different level of knowledge of the patients. You see a patient that is able to tell you exactly what medication they're having, what are the adverse reactions that they're having from their medication or not, and whether or not it's controlled. Here in Guyana, we're still talking about, oh, the white pill, the blue pill, the black and yellow pill, or the black and red pill. If we cannot educate our population adequately, we will never close that gap. It doesn't matter how many specialists you train and how many doctors you send into the outstations. We need to adequately educate our population. That is one of the main pillars of treatment that we have in our system. If we can adequately educate the population at the primary healthcare level, it will reduce the influx of patients that are referred to the specialist centers. The GPHC being the tertiary level healthcare system currently, we are taking patients from all over the country. If we can have the regional hospitals adequately staffed, well equipped, and able to function as they're supposed to, then of course the majority of these referrals will not be coming to GPHC. We are currently looking to build 12 new hospitals within the next 2-3 years. We already have such a shortage of staff at the GPHC in all departments, general practitioners, specialists, lab care staff, nursing especially. How are we staffing those hospitals? Minister Anthony, sometime in the past, mentioned that, we're going to train 1,000 nurses, many via the online programs. How is that training? How will this reflect on the type of health care that is needed from these staff? We've learned that for the past year, over 140 nurses have migrated to foreign shores, the majority to England and the United States of America. Why are they leaving? My colleague, Dr. Thomas, mentioned remuneration, job security, able to live in a society that is free from crime, able to have things that keep them here. If we don't improve these little tangible stuff that can keep our healthcare workers here, we will not be going anywhere. We will continue to train nurses by the hundreds and thousands, and we will continue to lose them to the Caribbean, to the United States, to England, and the other countries. They will always come begging. You mentioned the NHS in England. They have a dearth in general practitioners currently, and they are recruiting from all over the world. Guyana, currently, we have many offshore universities that are training practitioners here, that the first thing they're doing is looking to write the PLAB exam to go to England. Many of the foreigners, the Indian nationals, the Nigerian nationals who are currently being trained in Guyana at the various centers, they're looking to write USMLE, they're looking to go to England with the PLAB exam, they're looking to go to Dubai. It's only a matter of time before our own professionals look to do the same. There are only so many who want to give so much to their country. And yes, the number of doctors that we have in our system has improved quite a lot from the past. I am part of that big batch of 100 doctors that went to Cuba in 2006. How many of those 300 plus doctors are currently here in Guyana? How many have migrated, and why? If we don't address the why, we will never be able to ultimately fix this problem, no matter how many hospitals we build. And people will say, you know what? We're going to bring in foreign doctors or foreign nurses, like it's currently being seen in our system. We are currently looking at Cuba to bring in nurses. We know the amount of issues that it has getting these persons into the system and functioning at an optimum level. The quality of healthcare workers that we're losing are the most experienced, the ones who have been in the system for quite some time, the ones who have been performing and holding up the system. When we bring in new people who are new to the system, who do not have a command or a grasp of our language, it takes some time for bedding in. I studied in the Cuban healthcare system. I learned Spanish. It took me over a year to be able to converse just a normal conversation with a Cuban national. The same thing with my colleagues who went to China to do specialties. Over 3/4 of them came back to Guyana because they weren't able to converse in Mandarin and they weren't able to get into the system and function properly. They ended up coming back here and going to Cuba and going to other countries to do their specialties. Until we can address the issue whereby we keep our healthcare professionals here, when we adequately remunerate them, when we give them a chance to further their education, this is one of the pillars where we actually shine in, because they are, and if we look at the vacancies for persons to apply for specialties, there's an increased number here in Guyana, and that is a positive step on part of the government, and we give Jack his jacket. But there are other little tangibles and other means whereby we need to improve. And a lot has to be done in terms of keeping our current staff, keeping our most experienced. That is quite important.
Dr. Josh KANHAI?
Quite a mouthful there, friends.
I was about to say the same.
Well, from my perspective...
This man is a budding politician anyway.
Yeah, we got to put him in parliament. Yeah. My perspective on what needs to be fixed and which specialty, I would definitely say it was pathology. But that has been getting a whole load of attention.
Yeah,
and that's something we're going to discuss in quite a bit. But,
no, but let's discuss it.
Primary...
Dr. KANHAI, how long does it take before the family knows what the autopsy shows?
Well, the autopsies come out the same day.
The same day?
Unless we have to take a sample from them. And that sample usually turns around in about 7 days max to get the report and the sample seen under the slide and a microscope. And they get it back within 7 days.
7 working days.
7 working days. For a biopsy, so for example, if we take a puncture of your skin, a wart on your skin, any sort of piece of specimen from your body, organs being, that comes back in 7 days as well. Previously, there was a lot of issues with instruments, a lot of issues with staffing, more so with instruments and equipment. So there was a turnaround time of about 3 or 4 weeks, but that has cut down now to 7 days. And we are actually pushing, working with the CEO, the HOD, and the managers, actually pushing to get all of our quality standards in place and get our ISOs in place. So we're going to be a state-of-the-art lab, which is going to be quite functional, and that can come from 7 days down to 3 days. Additionally, we've started doing IHC. We're going to be start doing IHC testing.
What's that?
IHC testing is immunohistochemistry testing. It's a far more advanced testing other than just taking the slide and staining it with the pink stain and the blue stain, purple blue stain. So this now you put in receptors into the slide, into the tissue that you cut at a micron of 0.7 millimeters. You put a receptor in there, so now when you look at it on a microscope, it lights up, let's say, the walls of the cell. It lights that up specifically and tells you.
That's common, or we have that?
That equipment is already here and it's setting up currently. We've already done training for it in the United States through Mount Sinai, and that is going to be functional by the end of this month and fully functional by the end of February. So that is a big plus for GPHC, because we get samples from some of the private and we get samples from almost all of the other 12 hospitals regionally. So that there is big, because someone can know that they have cancer. Cancer is like the chronic disease, it's very prevalent. And if we can diagnose a patient early, we can get results and better outcomes and better prognosis for these patients and saving lives, prolonging lifespans as well. So that is pathology in a nutshell, and that is where we're getting to. And it's took a lot of hard work, but we're proud of what we're doing at the lab at GPHC. Coming back to not being biased, my focus for your question would be more primary health care, as Mark was touching on a bit there. Primary health care and then nursing. But let me put this into perspective for primary health care. Right now, the GPHC attaches 5 health centers under them. So they fund these health centers, they put the doctors there. It's sort of state-of-the-art. So now with primary health care being the health centers and these regional hospitals to some extent and the outposts, if we can get persons in the villages, because a health center would usually cover 2 villages, 3 villages sometimes even 1 village, how large it is. Let's take BB for example, or from where we're at industry. If the people in that area can understand the purpose of that health center and the uses of it, they would not overcrowd the accident and emergency. They would not overcrowd the outpatient department in Georgetown. So now we have to get more nurses and more qualified doctors. There's a program, there's a master's program for family medicine, but the intake is what we need to up. We need more of them. We need, other than taking 6, try to take 12, try to take 24, because a lot of people are going to want to do family medicine. A lot of people want to do family medicine. If we can fix that system there, we would take off a lot of load from the tertiary health care or GPHC. Once that system there is fixed, we will see a lot of changes in where resources are spent at GPHC. You're going to see patients, as Doc said, patients are actually going to get adequate attention, again providing better outcomes. My thing is, these guys are mentioned in Cuba, both of them would have studied in Cuba. Cuba's system, before you can be
both of these.
Yes, both of the doctors would have studied in Cuba.
And you studied?
I'm local.
Oh, you from UG?
Yeah, well, Texas American University.
Oh, okay.
Right. So
you came out of that?
Yes.
Yeah.
So with that system there, lost my train of thought there for a bit, but with that system, we can see more persons getting developed, right? And once we see more doctors in that system, we can have a lot more done. Coming back to the point, in Cuba, before you can go on to do a master's in general surgery or a master's in gynecology or a master's in pathology, you have to do a 2-year diploma in family medicine. So now you are a family physician. You can see persons on the lower level encompassing all disease. Family medicine is basically the doctors at the health center. They know about every disease as much as possible. Enough to stabilize you, enough to know if to refer you for further attention or not, or to treat you right at my post. So that is a system Cuba has where all of these persons have a family medicine background. It's something that we can do, but we can't do that until we get enough personnel in these positions that are trained. Right now, we probably, I'm not sure, but what do you guys think? We have about 50 family medicine qualified doctors?
Not so much.
Not so much? And we need more of them. And then nursing is the other big part. Nursing is something that we have to pay a lot of focus on. I believe the 1,000 nurses, that program is well on the way. I'm not sure how much
it hasn't started as yet.
Hasn't started.
No.
But I'm not sure the position of that. But that is an initiative that needs to be pushed. We need a lot of more nurses in the system. And we got to take a strategy whereby we get into the school systems, the secondary school systems, and we try to program people into these areas. Try to show them how beneficial it is, how they can help persons. And that is the only way we can try to at least plant a seed and see that seed itself grow into something, and hopefully that they have a lot of patriotism to stay. This migration issue, it's so much factors that affect it. It's not only remuneration and all of that, but a lot of social issues as well surrounding persons, especially the big ones that leave. Maybe they're not satisfied with working at private as well. Because we know most of the senior doctors and the consultants, they're also private and public. So that in itself there, with them leaving, it's too much factors. And when someone decides to leave, you just can't stop them. So we have to put things in place to get persons down here. The same way UK is poaching our people, the same way we have to poach people too.
Dr. Thomas, I'm a lay person. I don't know what is going on in the world of medicine. I can tell you what's the latest philosophy textbook and what's going on in politics. When a person dies in any private hospital, it's the government doctors that have to issue the autopsy report, or is the private hospital have their own autopsy report? I'm not familiar with that.
Normally, what would happen if they have people that have their preferences, you can't take their choice away from them. If they're accustomed to going to the private facility and they have been in a clinic for years, their doctors there, they can do the death certificate. However, if it was under suspicious circumstances or maybe a death after or during a surgery,
Is it 24 hours?
or less, within 24 hours or less, it would be done at the Georgetown Public Hospital. The autopsy will be done there, and we would have to issue the death registration there.
So once it's questionable or it needs to be questioned, the government doctors, now everyone knows Dr. Nihal Singh. After Singh, the department will have the two of you and more other pathologists. My uncle was Guyana's famous pathologist, Dr. Leslie Mutu. He and my father were second cousins. So his children and I are second cousins. Remember that name. He was one of the big names in pathology. Martin.
As a child, you would hear those
He lived in Bagdam. I lived across the road in Hatfield Street in Wortmanville. So it's Dr. Nihal Singh, the two of you, and how many more?
We have some other GMOs, general medical officers there, or government medical officers, and we also have 2 Cuban pathologists there. They're senior pathologists as well. So basically the group we're a budding group, but as I would jokingly say, it's a geriatric department. Because
geriatric is older people,
because
like
our
me.
heads are mostly past retirement age, so that's why we, the young ones, we're there to not push anybody.
Dr. Nihal Singh is in his late 60s, right?
Yeah.
And after him, there was Bridge Mahan.
Yes,
He's
in
still
Berbice.
around, but he's in Barbies.
Another in his late 60s.
Yeah.
But age is just a number.
Yeah, but you would want to keep you want to keep up a momentum. You want the young ones to be able to be trained and rub shoulders with the more experienced one to gain experience from them, not so that they can pass on and then you now have to come and get your own experience. No, you have your experience and you bring it on, rubbing shoulders with the seniors so you would learn from them along with gathering your own experience from over time. So, yeah, and going back to what the two doctors were saying, yes, primary health care is it plays a very important role, because I remembered when I was working in Region 8, yes, each region had a health post, but no doctors. And instead of nurses, they had community health workers. These community health workers were trained up to a certain level. It's lower than the medics level. And sometimes they would be there all alone.
What year was this?
I worked there from 2019 to 2022.
And there was no
doctors in all of the health posts, but there is a district hospital that we have doctors, and sometimes we would do telemedicine with them because of the topographic peculiarity of the area. Sometimes you can't get a phone signal, sometimes the radio is down, so you would have to
This is recent as 2022?
2019, I worked there to 2022 for 3 years.
And your housing facilities was all right?
Yeah, the housing facility was quite well. I never had a problem with that. But in certain villages, it was like primitive. Some of the people, strong
use of a word. Primitive.
It was kind of primitive, yeah.
When you venture out into the land regions, you need a special kind of mentality, a special kind of spirit, and a special kind of medicine to deal with those persons.
And a special kind of love and commitment for your job.
Because they don't understand sometimes that you're trying to help them too.
Yeah. Sometimes they just think that, okay, you're here from the mainland to change them. Yeah. But sometimes you're just there to learn and see if your way could be fused with ours. Because, okay, there's a new initiative I know for areas of Monkey Mountain. There's it's a sub-region in Region 8. The health worker, along with the community health worker there and the medics, they're working to not get rid of the natural births at home, because if you completely stop it, a lot of the patients would not come to deliver at the health post. So you would encourage them, here what, this is the way that we're looking at, but if you can't make it, call us.
Before we go to Dr. France, let me announce something on this program that I only found out last month, and I said it on the program. I think it should be said all over Guyana. I have been in journalism for 35 years, and there's something said last month to me by a very senior administrator of the hospital I did not know, really did not know, that the outpatient of the Georgetown Hospital on Middle Street goes up to 8 in the evening. I don't think people know that. Yep. I am supposed to be I'm supposed to keep abreast of what's happening in Guyana because that's my area. And I didn't know at 5 o'clock, if you see the skin scratching you and you want to go to a doctor, you could have gone to, that should be advertised because people are going to run to accident and emergency. So at 7 o'clock in the evening, you feeling a little belly pain, you can go to the outpatient. And I hope the people are listening to this program before we come to France. You can go to outpatient in Middle Street. They say, they told me it's up to 7 or something like that in the night.
7 to 8. Yeah.
7 to 8. Make a note of that, because if you go to accident and emergency, you got to wait behind people with accidents, and you know, we perhaps have the highest road fatalities per capita in the entire world. Dr. France, everybody, most people in Guyana have had some relation with the Georgetown Hospital. My mother died at the Georgetown Hospital in 1985 when it was headed by a man from Nigeria named Mucho Mogumbo. And times were very bad there. I think if we had money, we could have saved my mother. But the Georgetown Hospital has come a very, very far way from there. I cannot afford private bills. So I went to the Georgetown Hospital in February last year and got very good orthopedic treatment. But in your initial statement, you say there are gaps.
Yes, so the Georgetown Hospital has made strides, as I did mention, in various areas. One of the key areas that I mentioned is the capacity building of healthcare professionals, nursing staff, doctors. We have many postgraduate programs at the Georgetown Hospital for persons who are in the system to better themselves with regard to knowledge, getting a specialty, and in some cases a super specialty. For example, the outpatient department that you did mention, it's being run as almost a separate unit to the general Georgetown Public Hospital Center. But in GPHC itself,
how is that so? Anyway.
No, so they have their own arrangements and they're working from 7 to 8 as you did, 8 to 7 as you did mention. But we also have, for example, the medicine clinic, which has changed over the past couple of years. It's now being run by specialists. They have specialist doctors who are there throughout the day. The same doctor is able to see all the patients, and so they have a better follow-up of the patients. You mentioned the orthopedic department. I am currently working in the general surgery department. We have seen the Georgetown Hospital move into newer technologies. For example, in general surgery, we're looking to do minimally invasive surgery, laparoscopic surgeries. This is something
you have to explain to our viewers what's that.
This is something that was unheard of in the past, whereby you would go for open surgery, whether it's for an acute appendicitis, for a cholecystectomy, taking out your gallbladder. All those were open surgeries. Now we're able to do it with just making some small cuts. The healing time is much less, bleeding is much less, complications are much less. So you come out much faster from the hospital setting. All, if not most of the departments now have a postgraduate program that is up and running. You have between 4 to 6 doctors that hopefully get into the program and are being trained in these specialties every year. So in terms of capacity building, it's happening. Similarly for nursing staff, the GPHC, the Institute of Health and Sciences and Education, in conjunction with the University of Guyana, they're training specialists, and we're working also in tandem with some foreign universities, McMaster and some others that can be mentioned. Recently, we signed a memorandum of understanding with the Mount Sinai Hospital with Northwell, whereby some of our doctors are able to be trained and have mentorship from persons from overseas. So these are areas where we are improving, and it's all levels of staff, and not only doctors. We have nurses who are being trained. We have lab technicians who are being trained. We have imaging specialists who are being trained. So in that area, we are improving. But sometimes we still see those little gaps. For example, we still have shortages of drugs and medical supplies. This is something that is famous at GPHC. It's famous throughout the country. It got
to be infamous.
Well, if you want to call it infamous. I so happened to work 4 years at the Materials Management Unit Bond at Diamond, and I was second in control of getting drugs and medical supplies for the country. And I know the difficulties faced, but I also know huge amounts are spent procuring these drugs. And for various reasons, they do not reach in a timely manner. So not only, not GPHC so much, but to the outlying regions. If you look at your Facebook and you hear the complaints about public health, you're going to hear complaints coming from Skeldon Hospital, that people go there, spend long hours and can't get their medication. Similarly, in the far-flung districts, in Region 9, in Region 7, in Region 8, in Region 1, patients go there and they're unable to get basic medication. The system needs to be improved, it needs to be changed. And Dr. KANHAI mentioned that yes, some amount of planning and forward thinking has been put into it. But for example, we have budget coming out next week, Friday. Only
I think
earlier,
Monday coming,
the 15th, yes.
The 15th.
Only a couple of days ago, we had the heads of department at GPHC meeting with the top level of admin staff to look for the plans for 2024.
Any one of you were involved in that?
Not the heads of departments. No, this is something that should have been happening and being run concurrently maybe since 6 months ago. If you're planning for 2024, these persons should have been meeting and planning for the future for 2024 6 months ago so they can get into the budget. Right? I know that drugs and medical supply is a huge issue throughout this country. I also know that why we have such a huge level is because our data collection is poor. If you look at any proper procurement system, you know that you have to spend at least 10% of monies expended on drugs and medical supplies, fixing the system, getting data right, doing proper epidemiology. I was part of it. I know what it is. I know what the country needs. I had that information. I was in charge of the logistics management unit. And the sums that are expended, the personnel that are there, it's insufficient. If you don't have high quality persons getting back this data, if you don't have your statisticians giving you all of your proper analysis, you would never fix the system. So these are some of the areas that we can improve. We find that the Georgetown Hospital sometimes gets a bad name, but ultimately, every patient, whether it's from public or private, if any hospital cannot deal with what that patient is facing, they end up at GPHC. GPHC has the most qualified doctors and the largest quantity of doctors for any specialist area. When Woodlands got an issue with a patient and they're unable to resolve that problem there, they come to GPHC, they're referred to GPHC. Similar for Mercy, similar for Bawan Singh. When your monies are well spent and finished, you end up back at GPHC. Right? A lot of people send patients that are almost dying so that their records look good, and I'm not afraid to say this. Right? Because when they come to GPHC, then it's a death at GPHC. But the system has improved. GPHC has improved, and we are ever improving. The mere fact that we have so many specialists being trained every year in all of the major departments and a whole lot others, it means that we are going places. However, we do need to pay more attention to the staff that we currently have. We do need to be more responsible with how we deal with the population, and I did mention educating, but a simple thing like how we interact with our population. The many bad comments that come out of the emergency department, it's just a communication issue. If we can adequately have persons spend 5 minutes more explaining to a patient, explain to their family, why is it that we're waiting? What is it that we're waiting on? It goes a long way to having the population have good faith in the system. And that is something that can be easily addressed by just hiring a more persons, more communication officers to relay, if it's not directly to the patient, at least what is it that the doctors have planned for the patient, or what is it the doctors are doing for the patient. That, I think that can come a long way. So it has a lot to do with making sure that your patients are well treated, making sure that the communication is efficient, making sure that the families are oriented in terms of being up to date, what exactly is the status of the patients, and similarly ensuring that your staff feel that they are valued. I can tell you, I am here today, post-call last night. We do on calls at GPHC, $4,500 for every call. 24 hours you're on, 8 to 8 the next morning. That can't even buy my meals that I'm spending. That can't even pay my phone calls that I'm using for that on-call. But we give because we want to give back to the system. We have been trained in a free system.
And they're not taxed.
No, man.
Your on calls are not taxed.
You are gonna laugh, Mr. Kissoon. You are gonna laugh at it. If I go to one of the
doctor on.
You get phone allowance, right?
Yeah, but together they're all taxed.
4,500.
4,500 for a 24-hour on call.
Yes.
If I go in any public hospital and see 5-6 patients, I'm almost guaranteed to get $20,000. And these are things that people refuse to speak about. These are things that are going to make the public laugh, but it is the truth. And the GPHC still pay a little bit more than the Minister of Health in the far-flung hospitals. Yeah. Doc can tell you exactly how much she had doing an on-call. Maddie, I think it was. Yeah. I think it was $300. When I started in 2013, it was $1,800 for a 24-hour call.
Yeah. $1,800, no.
And you wonder why
no
we
allowances,
stay in the system and
no
why others go
allowances,
away.
No risk allowance, no travel allowance. We did the work because we loved our jobs.
Yes, and because we were contracted and we owe the government 5 years and we're here 2013. I can speak for myself. 2013 to now, I'm here 10 years in the system because I want to help my people, because I want to give back to my people.
Basically the same thing.
You're gonna laugh.
I'm not gonna laugh because I've been there, done that. I taught UG for 26 years, and I can tell you this. I used to go to places that I know friends have to photocopy handouts for my students. I had a student who graduated and worked at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and he used to take the government newspaper, the government printing paper, and print my stuff for UG. You know, when those 5 soldiers died, those 5 officers died, I wrote a column because I do a daily column in the Chronicle, and I said in that column, it's people like those 5 officers, people like you, that you don't see in the next 20 years going to be living in a resplendent house, you know, with a long drive-in and buy shopping in Europe. But you guys are the real heroes of this country. I taught for 26 years at UG under trying, terrible conditions. The reason why I haven't written a book is because I wrote a book and I gave UG the manuscript and said, could you publish this? And UG was telling me, you won't believe this, giving me $10,000 for the publication of a book that would cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I understand what you're saying, and I know Guyana is getting there, it's going there. But I've always said in this program with Gildarie, we help the policymakers when we bring out these things. It doesn't mean we don't like them. Look, let me say openly with pellucid forcefulness, I have a lot of sentiments for the Attorney General, Anin Nandalal, because of the years I've known him and what he did for me, and I think he's a fantastic politician. And I personally like Dr. Ali, and I think he's a good president. But we help them when we bring out these things because they may not know it. For example, I went to collect the $25,000 for the senior citizens with my wife and I would not refuse to carry my wife through that when I saw what was going on there. No way that woman I love more than myself, I would have carried her through that for $25,000. When I swear on my parents' grave, we give a lot of things away each month. You go into the supermarket, you go into the market, something costs $1,300, you give the vendor $2,000, he says, okay. And I would carry my wife through that. But you see, when you talk about these things, I am sure the president and the Attorney General Anin Nandalal did not know what people had to go through to collect that $25,000. So these kinds of programs, they will help. They help. I hope Dr. Frank Anthony is listening. It doesn't mean you're radically this, but it's your experience you thrust in to the public so our policymakers can learn. That thing about the allowance, honestly, it can't be accepted. It can be. Let me see with my little mango pelter here. No, we have got 6 minutes more. Let's go back alphabetically. Who was the last person?
I just spoke. Josh.
Josh. He said there's a policy of training people. If we have a university that turns out doctors and nurses, we have a bachelor in nursing, should we not expand those programs, the nursing programs, or should we not put a lot of money into it, employ more professors so we could have a turnout, a steady turnout each year?
Yeah, well, that's what we were saying earlier. These programs themselves, they're there, but currently they're only taking like 6. General surgery takes like 6 or 5. and the others take about, the largest intake would be family medicine. About 12 persons would get in there. And your point is right on, because if we can employ more persons, if we can have more infrastructure, because if they in up capacity, they would need more buildings at UG. If they can do that and they can churn out more, because these guys are going to teach when they finish residency, they can teach as well. If we can churn out more, we can double that. And then the persons are going to come from West Coast, the persons are going to come from LETEM, persons are going to, GMOs, I should say, not persons, GMOs are going to, government medical officers are going to come from all around the country and train at these institutions and be sent back to Berbice. Berbice is getting a fresh hospital. Micah is getting it. All the regions in the country are going to get hospitals. They need residents. They need senior management. They need senior doctors. So definitely we should spend money on medical education for seniors. Right now we have that influx of young medical students, given that we have the medical tourism with our offshore university strategy. That there in itself has laid a foundation. But now we need to build capacity for seniors, residents and consultants, and even fellowship. And with that, we get more research done. We get more data collection done, because you have to do a research in order to get your degree. With more research comes more data, and with more data comes more information. We act on that information. And just to point out one thing there as well, I know right now the big program or project is the telemedicine. And personally, I would have been involved at GPHC at the very ground zero at the medical clinic with the telemedicine and getting it, basically talking about it, advocating for it, speaking with the head in charge of the medical clinic at GPHC, and we put it on paper and we started to push it to PAHO. COVID came and then PAHO took it over, and now the ministry is taking it over and they're running with it. And the idea of that is to basically link all of the regions. With these telemedicine platforms, now we can have real-time data of medical consumables, which are like syringe, gloves, everybody. And then we can also have real-time data on the amount of pharmaceuticals we have on stock and how much we need to order. Again, it comes back to that system being in place where we use Internet of Things to help us get these jobs done more efficiently and more accurately. So that there is one that I'm waiting for personally as a young medical doctor coming in this field. And that is one that is going to catapult the medical field in Guyana, because we can be all the way in Georgetown looking at the patient, or all the way in LETEM looking at the patient's details from Georgetown, just on a tablet or on your phone. So we're going places. Trust me, we are. Okay. And it's just going to take some time.
We started with Dr. Thomas, so we're going to go to Dr. Thomas, then alphabetically France, then close off. Dr. Thomas, you have benefited from postgraduate training?
Hopefully.
Well,
you haven't been
it's in the future. It's in the near future.
But the near future could be another 2 years or 3 years. Yeah. Things like near are relative terms. It's like Guyanese saying just now, but I find out that just now is half an hour.
I have applied. So just waiting.
Dr. France, you have benefited from postgraduate training?
Not at GPHC. So I am currently...
but even from Guyana?
Yeah, from the Guyana government, I'm currently in a postgraduate program. I'm doing the Master of Public Health, and I'm also doing a fellowship in palliative care. But in addition to that, I'm working in the surgery department currently. So thereabouts, yes. Yeah.
Dr. France, you have, Dr. Josh KANHAI, or Dr. Billy Fury, or Dr. Rasputin. You have benefited from...
Rasputin.
Right.
Well, I have been getting a training through Mount Sinai. We have had a collaboration with pathology and them, but I have also applied for my further studies in pathology.
The operator said our time has come, so please address our viewers worldwide and give us your final take on medicine in Guyana, medicine for the future in Guyana. We started alphabetically with Dr. Thomas, so...
Okay. In a nutshell, we are not where we should be, but we are way ahead of where we were. And that's not just to say, okay, get comfortable. It's just to say that, okay, we need to work together for a common goal and start putting some incentives forward for our healthcare workers.
Dr. Franz?
I would just like to say to the general public out there that things are improving in healthcare in Guyana. There's a lot of areas where we can improve ourselves in terms of healthcare providers, in terms of management, but we need to work together. We need to be able to take any criticism, I think constructive criticism, our administrators and top level management, and listen to especially junior staff. Similarly, the public out there, I want you to give a little more thought with every service that you receive, especially in the public service, but even in the private sector, also the private health sector. And know that there's going to be improvements. It's going to take some time, but in the meantime, let us make sure that we are getting value for the sums of monies that are being spent, because huge sums are being spent, and we just don't want to see white elephants going up all over the country.
Dr. KANHAI?
Right, well, my last take would be definitely to the population of Guyana. I want to encourage you guys to be mindful of what you put in, because what you put in is what you get out. If you put in a lot of carbs and you put in a lot of junk, you are going to get one of the 5 deadly diseases: hypertension, diabetes, cholesterol, obesity, and then we have something called metabolic syndrome, where all 4 of these come and attack you. So what you put in is what you're going to get out. Exercise daily, even if it's 5 to 10 minutes. Get on time with your eating. Make sure that you watch your portions. That is very, very, very important. Don't go eating a lump sum. And of course, fasting in between is very much something that you should start getting a habit of. So to the Guyanese populations, to the Guyanese brothers and sisters out there, take your health seriously and it'll be less work for us.
Dr. KANHAI, it was a real pleasure.
Thank you again.
It's one of the interesting programs we've had. Dr. Thomas?
It was a pleasure.
Thanks. This is a first for our 20 months program. The first program we've discussed medicine. We will have this discussion back. We must. Medicine touches everyone's life in this country. I know people who have not so wealthy, but have sought the assistance of public medicine in Guyana. And I like to close by saying, I do believe from the bosom of my heart, this is not just mouthing off. I think the public medical system has some fantastic doctors in Guyana. They're just not given their due. I have had treatment from some of those people at the Georgetown Public Hospital. With those closing remarks, I'd like to thank Dr. Mark France, Dr. DELISSA Thomas, and Dr. Josh KANHAI for being on our program this evening and discussing medicine in Guyana, and as a byproduct, the Georgetown Public Hospital. We'll see you on Friday. As I normally say, catch you later. Bye-bye.